Hello everyone, Vlad here and welcome back to Lost Goddess. Today, we are going to talk about Helen. Helen is one of the most interesting commanders in the game. She is technical, defensive, positioning based, and she rewards players who understand board control and timing. But there is one big question in the current meta. Can Helen really stop Bernice? Helen has tools that look very good against Bernice. She has resistance, she can protect her module, she can slow the game down, and she can punish aggressive players who overcome it. But the problem is that surviving Bernice often forces you to play cards like Cinta, Sky, and Nona. And those cards are not only Helen answers, Bernice can use them too. So in this video I won't show you a fake top ladder Helen build, because right now the top ladder is heavily dominated by Bernice. Instead, I want to do something more useful. First, we will look at Helen's abilities and understand how her module works. Then, we will talk about the best mercenaries to support her. After that, I will show you my own Helen anti-burn composition, and finally, we will answer the real question. Is Helen a real answer to Bernice, or is she just trying to survive the meta? Let's get into it! Morana neck knockout, Blanche is still alive with 1000 HP, but my module absorbs part of the pressure, so I use shards. Now, before we talk about builds and matchup, we need to understand what Helen actually wants to do. Helen is a module-based commander. She is not a pure aggressive commander, and she is not a simple defensive war leader. Helen wins by controlling space, protecting her module, managing empty cells, and punishing opponents who overcome it on the board. That is why I consider her one of the most interesting commanders in Lost Goddess. She is first tier, excellent on ladder, but also quite difficult to play. You need good positioning, good timing, and strong board management. Her first ability is Solitude Familiar. This ability is available on first turn, and it defines Helen's entire gameplay. Helen deploys her module on the center row. The module gives resistance, protect allies in the column, and gives them unity against suppression and transformation effects. This is extremely important because it allows Helen to protect K units and keep her board alive longer than most commanders. The module also gives antidote against stun to allies that already have resistance. And at the end of the enemy turn, it deals damage to all enemy mercenaries based on the number of the empty allied cells. This is one of the most important mechanics to understand. With Helen, empty cells are not always a weakness. They are part of your damage engine. If you fill your entire board without thinking, you reduce the value of your modules. So, Helen is not just about placing units everywhere. She's about choosing which cells to keep open, which unit to protect, and when to commit. Her second ability is Shards. This ability transforms all wounded enemy mercenaries into shards, and when those shards are destroyed, they deploy explosive stimulants on empty cells. This gives Helen strong ball control. She can punish wounded enemies, disrupt future summons, and make it harder for the opponent to rebuild their board. Against aggressive commanders, this can be very powerful because Helen can slow down their tempo and force them into awkward position. Her third ability is Reflection Absorption. This is Helen's late game finisher. She drains heal from the enemy commander, and the damage scale with the number of empty allied cells. So once again, Helen rewards good board management. If you protect your module, survive the early pressure, and keep control of the board, Reflection Absorption can become a real win condition. This is why Helen's playstyle is defensive, positioning focus, and based around module control. Her main keywords are module resistance, shards, control, and drain. Now, the big question is, can Helen stop Bernice? On paper, Helen has several tools that look good against burn. She has resistance, she can slow down the game, she can protect a unit, and she can punish aggressive players who rush too hard. But in practice, the matchup is more complicated. So, before we answer that question, let's look at the mercenaries that can support Helen in the current burn meta. Now that we understand Helen's ability, let's talk about the mercenaries that can help her survive the burn meta. And this is where the Bernice matchup matchup become interesting. On paper, Helen has some very strong tools against burn. She has resistance, she can protect important units with her module, she can control the board, and she can drain the enemy commander in the late game. But against Bernice, Helen cannot do everything by herself. She needs support. The first essential unit is Nona. Nona is extremely important because she helps you survive longer games. Against Bernice, every extra turn matters. Nona gives you healing, tempo, and time to stabilize the board. She does not directly remove burn, but she helps Helen reach the stage where her module and her control tools can start creating value. The second essential unit is Cinta. For me, Cinta is one of the best answers to Bernice right now. The reason is simple. Burn is the core of Bernice pressure. If you cannot remove burn from your commander or from your important mercenaries, the game can become impossible very quickly. Cinta gives you burn removal and helps you survive the most dangerous turns. Against Bernice, this is almost mandatory. The third essential unit is Skye. Skye is valuable because she gives resistance, and resistance is one of the best defensive tools against burn pressure. With Helen, this is even more interesting because Helen already wants to play on resistance and protection, so Skye fits very naturally into this kind of anti-burn strategy. These three units, Nona, Cinta, and Skye, are the core of Helen's anti-Bernice package. But there is an important problem. These units are not only good with Helen, Bernice can use them too. And this is one of the biggest reasons why I don't think Helen is the perfect answer to Bernice in the current meta. If you need to play the same survival package as Bernice just to compete with her, then you have to ask yourself, are you really countering Bernice, or are you just playing a slower version of the same anti-burn shell? Now, outside of the essential unit, there are also some very good options. Lola is a strong defensive option. She can help you survive pressure and protect your board, which is always valuable with Helen. Helen wants to keep K unit alive, protect her module, and avoid losing control too early. Lola can help with that. Morana is also very interesting. Her immunity protects her from burn, and her ability to set enemy units heals to 1 allows Helen's module to finish them off more easily. She can stay relevant in situations where other units will simply disappear from burn trigger. Florence is another useful option. I don't think Florence is a perfect answer to Bernice, but she can help a lot when your goal is to protect the module and keep your board alive. Her healing and antidote utility can buy you time, and with Helen, buried time is often exactly what you need. Then we have Agathe. Agathe can correct pressure and has interesting synergy in burn matchup because of her aggressive tool and commander pressure. She is not always easy to fit into Helen, but she can be a strong option depending on your build and your game plan. So overall, Helen has access to good anti-burn tools, resistance, burn removal, healing, board control and commander drain. But the issue is team slots. The more anti-Bernice tools you add, the less space you have to build around Helen's own synergy. And that is the real weakness. You can survive Bernice better, yes, but surviving Bernice is not the same thing as beating the meta. Now let me show you the composition I tested around Helen, built specifically to survive burn pressure and protect the module. Now let me show you the composition I tested around Helen. I call this build Compo Vlad Outlast the Burn. The goal of this composition is very simple. Survive Bernice burn pressure, protect Helen's module, and win the game through patience, healing, resistance, and board control. This is not an aggressive Helen build. This is a defensive anti-burn build designed for long games. The first unit is Vivienne. Vivienne brings antidote and damage. She is useful because she can help you keep pressure on the board while also giving you tools to deal with burn and debuffs. She is not the main carry of the team, but she gives the composition more stability. The second unit is Morana. Morana is very interesting with Helen. Her immunity protects her from burn, and her ability to set enemy units heals to 1 allows Helen's module to finish them off more easily. This is important because Helen's module deals damage based on empty allied cells, so Morana can help Helen create very efficient board clears. The third unit is Pixie. Pixie is one of the main carries of the composition. If you manage to protect her and give her enough time, she can become a real win condition. This is why the build is not only about surviving, you also need units that can actually win the game once you stabilize. The fourth unit is Zoe and Chloe. They bring burst damage and strong synergy with Pixie. Their role is to help you punish the opponent when you finally get control of the board. With Helen, you often spend the early game defending, protecting the module and surviving pressure, but once the game slows down, Zoe and Chloe can help you turn defense into offense. The fifth unit is Florence. Florence gives healing and antidote. I don't think Florence is the perfect answer to Bernice, but she is useful because she helps you protect the module and keep your K units alive. And with Helen, protecting the module is extremely important. If the module dies too early, the whole game plan becomes much weaker. The sixth unit is Cinta. Cinta is probably the most important unit against Bernice. She gives cleans and most importantly she can help remove burn from your commander. Without Cinta, many Bernice games can become almost impossible because burn pressure stacks too quickly and force you into bad positions. So in this build, Cinta is one of the core pieces. The seventh unit is Skye. Skye gives resistance and helps the team survive longer. Resistance is one of the best tools against burn and it fits very well with Helen's defensive identity. Helen already wants to slow the game down, protect her board and survive until her module create value. Skye helps with exactly that. The last unit is Nona. Nona gives healing and stall. Her role is to buy time. Against Bernice, time is everything. If you can survive the early pressure, cleanse at the right moment and protect your important unit, Helen can start playing her own game. So the general playstyle of this composition is defensive, anti-burn, focused on value and designed for long game. The strengths are clear. You have massive clean access, you have high survivability, you have stronger interbursts than most Helen builds, and you have a reliable late game if you protect your carries. But the weaknesses are also very important. First, the build is module dependent. If your module gets removed too early, you lose a lot of value. Second, your early pressure is lower. You are not trying to kill the opponent quickly, you are trying to survive first and win later. And third, the build can be draw order sensitive. If you don't find Cinta, Skye, Nona or Florence at the right time, Bernice can still overwhelm you. So the game plan is protect the module, stall the burn, cleanse your team, protect your carry and win the long game. The build can help Helen survive Bernice much better, but there is still one big problem. The more anti-burn tools you add, the less space you have for Helen's own synergy. And that is why this composition is strong but also show the real weakness of Helen in the current meta. She can survive Bernice, but surviving Bernice is not always the same as beating Bernice. I start by opening with Helen's module, then I place Vivienne B in the module because I want to protect her while still applying pressure to the enemy commander. My opponent answers with Regina. So yeah, I deploy Morana in front of Regina. Regina is already close to being knocked out. Morana get knocked out, Blanche is still alive with 1000 HP, but my module absorbs part of the pressure, so I use Sharp. Then I deploy Skye to go face and give me more resistance. But my opponent deploy Alicia and Alicia destroy the model again. Thankfully Skye survive. Now I deploy Florence being Skye. But then Bernice activates her second ability. This is the moment where I really need to survive. My opponent plays Harper being Regina. Skye finally goes down. Then Harper attack face and the burst damage kill Florence. At this point I have no board left. I use reflection absorption. Then I deploy Pixie. Pixie stun Harper, which is extremely important because it stops more incoming pressure. My opponent deploys 16, but Pixie also stun her. Regina is still blocked. I deploy Cinta in front of Pixie to cleanse the burn and protect my last win condition. And that is the win. So what is my final verdict? Can Helen stop Bernice? Honestly, not consistently. Ellen can beat Bernice, you saw it in the gameplay. If the module survive, if Cinta arrive at the right time, if Pixie get value, if you manage burn correctly, and if Bernice does not overwhelm you too fast, Ellen can win. But that is the problem. Too many things need to go right. Against Bernice, Ellen is constantly forced to defend, and the more you try to build specifically against Bernice, the more you lose what makes Ellen strong in the first place. The composition was designed to outlast burn. It has cleans, resistance, healing, antidotes, stall tools, and late game value. But after testing it, I think the biggest issue is not only that it struggles against Bernice. The biggest issue is that this build can also make Ellen worse in matchup she is normally supposed to win. Because you are using too many slots just to answer burn. Cinta, Sky, Nona, Florence. These tools help you survive, but they also limit your real Ellen synergies. You have less room for Perissue, less room for flexible win conditions, less room to fully build around the module, Charles and Commander Dwayne. So instead of becoming a stronger Ellen composition, the build becomes a defensive anti-Bernice shell. And if that shell still does not consistently beat Bernice, then the trade-off is not worth it. That is why I don't think Ellen is a true answer to the burn meta right now. She is still a very interesting commander. She is technical, rewarding and fun to play. Her module management, positioning and decision making make her one of the most skill explosive commanders in the game. But the current meta, Bernice forces Ellen to sacrifice too much. Ellen can survive the burn, Ellen can sometimes outplay the burn, but Ellen does not consistently beat the burn. If building against Bernice make Ellen weaker in the normally positive matchup, then this is not a real solution. So my final answer is simple. Ellen is not a Bernice counter right now. She is a strong commander, but the burn meta forces her into a build that does not fully play to her strength. If Bernice gets adjusted in the future, I think Ellen can become much more relevant again. But right now, if your goal is to climb and beat Bernice consistently, Ellen is probably not the best answer. Thanks for watching the guide. Let me know in the comments what you think about Ellen in the current meta. Can she really stop Bernice? Or is Bernice still too strong? And remember, the best composition is not the one that's meta. It's the one you master. Keep improving, keep climbing, and most importantly, have fun. See you next time.